Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Encouraging Sustainability on a Regional Level presentation. My name is April Stevens with the Division of Environmental and Financial Assistance here at Ohio EPA, and I will be moderating this morning's panel discussion. And now I would like to introduce our first panelist, Michael Forrester from the City of Cincinnati. Michael is the Director for Cincinnati's Office of Environment and Sustainability. The Office of Environment and Sustainability is responsible for Cincinnati's curbside recycling program, brownfield remediation, and the implementation of the Green Cincinnati Plan, Cincinnati's roadmap towards a cleaner and greener future, and lays out 80 recommendations to move the city forward towards an 80% carbon emission reduction by 2050. With that, I will hand it over to Michael.
My name is Michael Forrester. I'm the director here in the Office of Environment and Sustainability for the City of Cincinnati. And really what we're going to talk about today is kind of the Green Cincinnati Plan, as April laid out earlier, and also one of our major initiatives that we're doing right now to significantly reduce our carbon. So first and foremost, as we said, the City of Cincinnati's sustainability roadmap is laid out in our Green Cincinnati Plan. And that is a wide-ranging plan. We're currently on our third iteration, passed in 2018. And it's a giant public engagement document. You know, we're trying to respond to our residents' desires and needs and lay out a roadmap for how we move our city forward. So through this process, we've had over 30 public meetings. We've obtained over 1,400 public comments, and we've boiled that down into those 80 recommendations that, you know, when we total them all up, those recommendations help us achieve the goal of an 80% carbon reduction by 2050. This is obviously something that we can't do alone. We have a large number of community partners that are actively engaged in meeting these goals with us. We as a city obviously don't control everything here in the city of Cincinnati. And so having these key partners allow us to activate different stakeholders, different types of residents, different community organizations, and commercial businesses to really move our community forward. And so we're all rowing in the same direction. Pleased to say that of those 80 recommendations that we've laid out in 2018, over 75% are either completed or on track to be completed. And so we really are making big strides here. And we can see this in our emissions reductions as well. So the city of Cincinnati has laid out that 80% reduction goal, which if you do the math, reduces us to about 2% per year. And I'm happy to announce that we are on track to do that. So since 2006, the city of Cincinnati has reduced our emissions as a city whole over 18%, and as a city government, 36%. And a large reason for that is our active work around energy efficiency improvements and also the grid decarbonization that's currently taking place here in the state of Ohio as we shift away from coal into natural gas and renewables with a lower carbon footprint. Why are we doing all this? The answer is because we have to. We're seeing these impacts now. We're seeing the impacts of climate change now. In the city of Cincinnati, climate change looks like it's going to be hotter. It looks like it's going to be wetter, which means we're going to have more intensifying rainstorms with more extreme weather. That rain is going to cause a number of issues in the city of Cincinnati. First of all, our sewers are not designed to handle that amount of water. So we're having localized flooding issues, and we're also having landslides. And this is in addition to just the general issues that we have around heat and the urban heat island impact. So we are seeing these impacts of climate change here in the city of Cincinnati now. And as a result, we're continuing to work to reduce our carbon footprint. We also, in addition to the Green Cincinnati Plan, we also signed on to a Ready for 100 Plant pledge, which pledged that the city of Cincinnati will be 100% renewable, both in electricity, natural gas, and have a 100% electrified green fleet by 2035. There are a couple caveats. We know that the technology currently does not exist to fully do this. But what it does do is it signals ambition, and it directs my office to take immediate action to try and achieve these goals. So even if we can't make it to 100% right now, we can certainly take big swings and big strides to reduce our carbon footprint by purchasing some electric vehicles, by purchasing renewables. And that's exactly what we've done. So the city of Cincinnati had an ambitious goal laid out in our Green Cincinnati plan to implement and build 25 megawatts to service city operations. I'm happy to announce that we're currently under contract right now to actually build 100 megawatts of solar outside of the 40 miles outside of the city of Cincinnati in Highland County, Ohio, to directly serve both our city operations, 25% of our overall load of city operations, but also to bring solar to our residents through our community choice aggregation program. 15% of over 80,000 residential accounts will be met by this local solar array. This is a great project that we're really excited about, and it does a number of things for the city. So first of all, it reduces our carbon footprint. Second of all, it serves as a budget hedge to help protect the city's balance sheet. You know, we're protecting the city from from market fluctuations and high cost energy during the summer. I'll go into that a little bit later. Also, there's a regional jobs impact, and then of course, improvement to our local air quality. So what this is a series of 2 power purchase agreements, and a power purchase agreement means that we've agreed to purchase the power that's generated. We are not the owners of this array. We are not in charge of maintenance. And in fact, we are not putting any upfront capital into this array. Instead, what we're doing is we're agreeing to buy the power as it's produced. We're using money that we would already spend to purchase electricity, to pump water, to treat water, to run fire and police stations. We're using that budget. And instead, we're just directing that spend a little bit more to this solar array. So this power purchase agreement, 35 megawatts are for city operations and 65 megawatts are for our residents. And so the combination of these 2 contracts working together, both city operations and our community choice aggregation program, allows us to achieve scale, which significantly reduces the price to the city of Cincinnati. So this contract overall is anticipated to save the city government over almost $2 million over the term of the contract. So we're executing big, we're using money that we would already be spending, we're reducing our carbon, and we're doing all of this at a savings to the taxpayer. Why does that work? Frankly, the time when solar energy produces is also the time when energy is the most expensive. The energy market is not flat, it is not stagnant, it changes on an hour-to-hour basis. And the most expensive energy typically is in the summer when it's hot and sunny out. Coincidentally, that's also when solar is producing the most energy. So by fixing that rate at that time, we're essentially entering into a peak energy hedge that eliminates a lot of the risk that you would see in the market during that time. So I know that this was fast and I know that this was quick, but this project is currently under construction. It is anticipated to come online here in December of this year, and we'll begin serving our residents and providing solar power to our residents in May. So we're actively going forward. We're actively moving on this project, and it's actively under construction to help the city of Cincinnati meet its goal of being 100% renewable by 2035. That's all the time that I have for everyone. Look forward to everyone's questions there.
Thanks, Michael. And yeah, we'll get to questions at the end. Thank you so much. Next, we're going to have Kathy Lynn. Kathy serves as the Sustainable Cleveland Manager with the Mayor's Office of Sustainability. Her role in the office is to connect Sustainable Cleveland with neighborhood residents and community partners. Kathy also serves as the Program Manager for Cincinnati's participation in Circular Cleveland. Sustainable Cleveland is Mayor Frank Jackson's long-term initiative to build a thriving green city on a blue lake and is facilitated through the Mayor's Office of Sustainability. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Kathy.
Thank you, April. I would like to take the few minutes I have this morning to talk about a new initiative launched by Cleveland just this last January called Circular Cleveland. Circular Cleveland was launched with an award from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation of $475,000 to begin a roadmap process and implementation of that roadmap over a 30-month period. We have many partners in this initiative. Cleveland Neighborhood Progress was actually awarded the foundation grant, along with the City of Cleveland and Neighborhood Connections. Another very important partner in Circular Cleveland is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is a global think tank for the circular economy. Key features of the award include equity, community engagement, and linking to global ideas. So what is a circular economy? A circular economy transitions the city of Cleveland from a linear economy, which can be defined as take, make, waste, to a circular economy. And here we use the definition used by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. A circular economy reduces waste and pollution, keeps products and materials in use, and restores and renews nature. All of this creates local wealth and opportunities. We're all very familiar with the circular economy. We just haven't called it that before. And here's a list of some of those examples of a circular economy. What I like to think of is this is the way that our grandparents and our great-grandparents lived. They always did keep materials in use by reuse and repair. So the deliverables for this grant are, there's 3 that we've already started, and these are the Circular Economy Roadmap, Circular Cleveland Ambassadors, and Community Small Grants. And I'll talk about those in just a minute. What we will be focusing on in 2022 is starting a composting program at the West Side Market, and also through the City of Cleveland Department of Economic Development, providing small business incentives for those businesses practicing the circular economy. So I mentioned the roadmap process. We have hired international consultants to work us through what practices are going to transition Cleveland best to the circular economy. And through this roadmap process, we are engaging our stakeholders. Last month, we held the first of 6 workshops. We did have an in-person and a virtual component where we engaged over 100 stakeholders in the process, and these represented people from the public, private, and social sectors to help us along this process. We've also engaged our community members in the circular economy by providing community grants. We had, through our partner Neighborhood Connections, we awarded 14 grants to residents in the city of Cleveland, totaling $40,000. We've also selected 10 ambassadors from 10 different City of Cleveland neighborhoods. These residents will serve as liaisons between our core team and the residents in their neighborhoods. And with that, I'm going to end, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and please contact me if you want to learn more about Circular Cleveland. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kathy. And finally, we have Joe Flaherty. Joe is the Executive Director of Power a Clean Future Ohio, an expansive coalition of organizations that works with cities and municipalities in Ohio to develop community-driven carbon reduction strategies. Power a Clean Future Ohio empowers local governments and community members by providing tools and resources to implement climate action plans and clean energy policies that are achievable, measurable, equitable, and economical. And with that, I will hand the mic over to Joe.
Well, thank you, April. And thank you to the Ohio EPA for putting on this really spectacular conference. I'm really honored to be with Michael and Kathy this morning to talk about regional sustainability initiatives. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Power a Clean Future Ohio and what we're doing. Give me 1 second here. There we go. So Power a Clean Future Ohio is an organization that's supported by a really broad coalition of environmental and clean energy advocates in the state of Ohio. Many of the organizations that you all probably have heard of and engaged with, interacted with, the Ohio Environmental Council, the Ohio Mayors Alliance, Sierra Club, the Ohio Conservative Energy Forum, Clean Fuels Ohio, NRDC. There's a whole variety of organizations that are at the table to do this work, and those just to name a few, but a whole variety of local businesses and other chambers across the state have also added their name to support this work because we see an incredible opportunity to grow clean energy in our state and do sustainability work at the local level. So we launched in February of 2020, really with the idea that we know that there's a lot of energy at the local level to do this. We've obviously seen two great examples already this morning in Cincinnati and Cleveland about how cities can approach this work. But oftentimes what we've seen is that there's a gap with some communities, with some cities, local governments that want to do this, but maybe they don't have the financial resources, they don't have the staff capacity, they don't have the technical partnerships or the technical capacity or knowledge on staff to be able to launch some of these efforts. And so that's really where we identified the gap to plug in to help cities that maybe aren't the largest cities in Ohio, but certainly working with them along with the mid-sized cities as well, that, like I said, want to grow their clean energy economy locally. They want to address climate change. They want to reduce their emissions, but they need some help. They need some assistance to make it happen. So that's really the sole focus of our work, is to be a partner with local governments on this effort. It is completely free for local governments to join Power a Clean Future Ohio. Once cities join, they have access to a really rich network of technical experts and tools to make this work happen and to really jumpstart these initiatives within your community. All that you have to do as a community is simply pass a resolution out of City Council or have your mayor make an announcement that they're joining PCFO, and we can get to work right away to help you make this work happen. So our goals with PCFO are quite simply to reduce emissions. That's one of the first things we talk about with our communities is what are ways in which we can reduce emissions? What's the first step to make that happen? I'll talk a little about what we recommend as a plan of action for cities that want to approach it in that way. The other idea here is that let's think about what job opportunities, what economic growth can come from this work as well. Talk to local businesses, hear what they're supportive of, and help think through recommendations that might fit within your community as well. We're not, as an organization, we don't come in to prescribe anything to a community. Every community is different, and we understand that. And that's part of how we've structured this process. Is let's have that conversation. Let's bring in the stakeholders that make sense to you and figure out what's the path forward for your city or your local government. The other issue here is that we want to make sure that voices that have been left out of this conversation previously are brought into the discussion. We have some really great partnerships, one of which is with the Ohio Climate Justice Fund, which helps fund listening conversations with organizations that are led by Black, Indigenous, or people of color. And so those organizations are led or governed by BIPOC leaders. Those organizations host these conversations to hear what's going on in the community, and then we can help partner with those organizations, help build power in the community, and make sure that those voices are heard in the process that comes from the local government. And finally, just to speak to the issue that really launched this campaign to start with, which is that a lot of communities don't have funds to do this. We want to make sure the recommendations that we provide you can help reduce costs. And there's a variety of ways in which we see that happening. Certainly, Michael talked a little bit about the energy market and what that looks like. Certainly, the economics around renewable energy, and now even more and more with electric vehicles, we're seeing an incredible opportunity for cities to embrace this work and save money in the process. So where are we now? We've now have 19 PCFO communities, only 18 listed here. We saw Cleveland City Council pass a resolution last night. We welcome Cleveland into this really diverse group of local governments all across the state, representing, practically speaking, every region of Ohio and a whole variety of size and makeups of these communities as well. Everyone's approaching this work in a different way, and I can speak specifics to each of these communities and what they're working on, but everyone's doing it differently. But the other aspect of this is that each community can also be a helpful partner with others. Where they've had success or they've had challenges, they can help speak to that and be a good peer partner with other cities that maybe want to pursue a similar action. So we can help connect cities where they have similar projects or similar interests. This slide there's a lot of text here, but I just want to bring this up so you all can take a look and see all the different resources that we can provide cities. So some of the basics around this, fleet inventories to transition your electric fleet. That's something we're doing for the city of Cincinnati right now. And I know Michael talked a little bit about the 100% green fleet goal that they have. This is certainly going to be a useful tool as the electric vehicle market continues to grow at a rapid pace. And so that's something that we've made a priority for cities is let's provide some recommendations on how you can transition your fleet away from internal combustion to more and more electric vehicles that are being deployed out on your city streets. We have lots of other tools at our disposal, some of the basics around consulting services for both sustainability and climate action planning, also with anything around energy efficiency, municipal benchmarking. We've launched a program to provide equity coaching. So have a conversation around equity. What does that look like in your community? How to structure these programs that also paired with a greenhouse gas inventory as well. Finally, here's just a basic outline of what we would recommend for cities of any size that are interested in doing this, understanding that it's going to be different for every city. But one of the basic recommendations we have is to start with baselining your emissions. Now, that's not going to work for everyone. Some cities may want to start with just trying out a few programs or trying out a fleet inventory and identifying how they can purchase some electric vehicles or look at their community choice aggregation program. But here's a basic framework that we would recommend if you want to take a comprehensive approach, which is baseline your emissions, identify what to do next. What's going to be the biggest bang for your buck to meet that goal that you set. Make a commitment. So really set that goal, identify what the timeline is, what's that baseline year. Educate and build support, engage with the community. Those things are critical steps in this to make sure everyone understands what the city's getting into and how this might affect them, or what opportunities they could take advantage of in this process. And finally, really develop a plan for implementation. We think it's really critical to actually put the pen to page and put a plan together. Certainly, you can look to the two speakers previously, Cincinnati and Cleveland, and how to develop that plan. What's one model? But there's lots of other models that we could help point you to as well. Finally, as an organization, what we can provide you, in addition to the resources I mentioned before, is what are ways in which you can think about this in deploying some of these tools. There's lots of things. I know Michael mentioned with some of the partners, there's lots of things that the city can control, but there's a lot the city can't. And so what are ways in which there's things right at the city's fingertips they can work to make this transition possible towards clean energy? Certainly community choice aggregation is a major tool that we would recommend. Power purchase agreements to install solar on municipal buildings. Those are city controlled. There's also a large opportunity for cities to be conveners and to deploy solutions that help influence how a community approaches clean energy, energy efficiency, transportation. Those types of solutions are there. They may not be directly under the locus of control for cities, but they can certainly be great conveners as a city. So here's the general framework that we would encourage cities to think about on what they can control and then what they can influence as well. So if your city is interested in joining, certainly reach out to me. Check out our website at powercleanfuture.org. And we're excited to get to work with hopefully more and more Ohio communities that are ready to do this work in partnership.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe. With that, we are now going to ask some questions of our panelists to help clarify how their programs address sustainability. But we also encourage you to continue to submit questions using your interface, and we'll get to those at the end of the section. So I'm going to start off with a question here. I'm going to address this one. All of our panelists are going to answer these questions, but I have Michael answer this one first. What were the driving forces that encouraged you to start sustainability activities at your organization?
I mean, we have to. The city of Cincinnati is a big city. We have to be responsive to our residents. We have to be responsive to our government. And both have given us direction that we must undertake these bold actions. And those have culminated in the establishment of the Green Cincinnati Plan. So every time we do an iteration of the Green Cincinnati Plan, which we update about every 5 years, not only is it a big public engagement process, which I outlined earlier in the presentation, but we also do receive typically an ordinance from city government and from council directing the Office of Environment and Sustainability to manage this process and draft this plan for the city. So it really is a partnership between city administration, city council, the mayor, and the residents to really lay out the plan for what are the big the big accomplishments that the city needs to achieve over the next 5 years that's laid out in the Green Cincinnati Plan.
That's great. Thanks, Michael. And Kathy, I'll ask you the same question. What were the driving forces that encouraged you to start sustainability activities at your organization?
Well, my answers are really going to come in a couple different phases. First, it was in 2005 that Mayor Frank Jackson first created the Office of Sustainability. It was in 2009 that we launched Sustainable Cleveland, and then just last year that we launched Circular Cleveland. So the driving forces to initially have an Office of Sustainability for the city of Cleveland was driven by the mayor's desire to position Cleveland as a leader in sustainability and to lead by example towards that. Also, I guess kind of standard answers, right? We wanted to save money and create jobs and lower greenhouse gas emissions. Also, in 2009, the mayor was interested in bouncing back from the economic downturn very strong, as we saw in 2008 and 2009. And then for Circular Cleveland, one of the driving forces was one thing that we saw in the city and that we've seen around the country is that recycling system is really broken, and we wanted to address that, as well as reducing waste that was going to the landfill and to reduce pollution. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. And Joe, same question. What are the driving forces that encourage you to start sustainability activities?
Well, as I mentioned, we just launched at the beginning of 2020. So we're about a year and a half in, and the big driving motivation around this was seeing the incredible progress at the local level. So obviously, folks like Michael and Kathy and the work that they've done is a major motivation to think about how we can do this in other communities in Ohio. And how can we replicate some of those results at a smaller scale? So, a city that's 30,000 or 40,000, that type size community, what are ways in which they can do this work that's attainable for them with a smaller budget and smaller staff? And so that was really the driving motivation here is let's try and replicate this. And we have such an incredible coalition of organizations that have that technical expertise that are ready to be partners in this work. And so it's kind of bringing those two forces together and saying, let's see progress. Let's help push for political commitments at the local level and let's see real action. So that was ultimately the main motivation for this and witnessing the incredible progress at the local level with mayors, city councils, and city staff that have really embraced this transition towards clean energy and the local sustainability work that we've seen in Ohio.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you, guys. Our next question, we'll start with Kathy first this time. What partnerships were instrumental to encouraging and beginning your sustainability program?
Okay, again, there's a couple different answers to this. So beginning in 2005, when the office was first created, our partners were our philanthropic foundations. Cleveland Foundation and the George Gunn Foundation really provided seed money to get our office started. And then in 2009, with the launch of Sustainable Cleveland, we worked very closely with two professors out of Case Western Reserve University, David Cooperrider and Ron Fry, introduced us to the process of appreciative inquiry, which we used for all of our summits ongoing from 2009. And really appreciative inquiry asks us to look at the positives, look at the assets in our community, and not dwell on the negatives. So that was a very important partnership. For Circular Cleveland, as I mentioned, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation funding, along with Cleveland Neighborhood Progress and Neighborhood Connections, and Ellen MacArthur Foundation are all very important. And at all levels, at all phases, of course, we work with residents, businesses, nonprofits, academics, and with our other city departments. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kathy. Joe, we'll have you up next. What partnerships were instrumental to encouraging and beginning your sustainability program?
Well, similar to Kathy, I would thank the George Gunn Foundation and the Cleveland Foundation for their support. And we're constantly looking to generate new funds to help support cities in doing this. But I think some other key partnerships that we've seen is the leadership with the Ohio Mayor's Alliance. Ohio Mayor's Alliance has been a great competing force. Mayor John Cranley, kind of from the start, has been a real champion in Cincinnati for some of this work, and helped bring in a number of mayors into this effort through the Ohio Mayor's Alliance. But then looking at some of our other organizations that have done great work, it's the coalition aspect of Power Clean Future Ohio that brings that magic sauce into this work. There's a whole variety of organizations that are at the table to help advocate for these efforts. And so where you have needs around electric vehicles, Clean Fuels Ohio is ready to jump in and help. Where you have interest in doing municipal benchmarking or thinking about energy efficiency efforts, Institute for Market Transformation is ready to jump in and provide those technical resources and assistance. If you're looking to engage residents, Ohio Climate Justice Fund, Ohio Citizen Action, those types of organizations that have become key partners in this work can help engage your residents and speak directly to what their interests are and what they want to see in their community and their local government. So those are a few of those. I don't have enough time to name all the different partners and helpful relationships that we've built over the past year and a half, but those are certainly some of the key ones I would mention.
Great. Thanks, Joe. And then finally, Michael, same question to you as well. What partnerships were instrumental to encouraging and beginning your sustainability program?
So, as I said earlier, one of the key partners is actively engaging our residents, to listening to hear what they want the city to accomplish and what they see as solutions forward. That's a very key part of any city is to actively engage their residents and listen to what their residents want. I will say that we've had significant help from our local universities, both Xavier University and the University of Cincinnati, to help lay out paths and achieve and identify and provide the calculations and backings of our carbon reduction strategies. We've partnered with our local utility here, Duke Energy, to help look at different policies that could be put in place or potentially fund energy efficiency programs here in the city of Cincinnati. We've worked with our local weatherization community through people working cooperatively that helps do home repair and energy efficiency for low-income individuals here in the Senate, or individuals here in the city. And then, of course, Green Umbrella is our regional sustainability group here that really does serve as that linking organization between a variety of partners and help channel that message to spur action here in the Cincinnati area. So those are really some of our key partners, but obviously I'm going to forget some. So if I forgot you and you're on, you're still valuable and I like you. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah, we have limited time for all these answers. So I totally understand. And I know you guys go on and on and on because I'm sure the partnerships are the main reason you guys are all here. So we'll do one more panel question for all three of you. I'm going to start with Joe first this time. How would you encourage others to start their sustainability journey?
I would think, the basic steps that I would recommend for any local community to take, and I'll speak about this question specifically around local governments and cities, municipalities, is kind of where Michael started a second ago, which is engage your city, ask your residents what they want to see, get an understanding of what they understand as well. I think community education is a critical piece to this. And so I would say start there. And if you're interested in how that looks or what to do in that, we can help provide some guidance or potentially help connect you to some resources to host some community conversations around what does your sustainability path look like. The second thing I would say is sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get folks on board, to be comfortable with this process. And so identify what's some easy wins. What are some things you can do right up front? If your city maybe isn't gung-ho about doing this right today or tomorrow, what are some easy wins that you can do, and we can help identify those as well. And then alternatively, if you're thinking about being really aggressive with this and really trying to do this work, is put together a plan. And I think that a plan doesn't have to be an incredibly in-depth 100-page document written by consultants. It can be something relatively simple that is a starting place as a convening force to start to have this conversation. And so, the basics around, what are the various areas of your municipal government that you want to focus on, and what are ways in which you can take immediate action to try and reduce emissions through that governmental operations piece. I think those are some basic first steps that I would recommend for cities to take if they want to go down this path.
Great, thanks, Joe. We'll go to Michael next. Same question. How would you encourage others to start their sustainability journey?
Yeah, I think that, obviously developing a plan, engaging your community, similar to the answers that Joe's given, but I would also encourage communities and businesses and individuals to pilot things, to try it out. Maybe you're not ready for a 100% renewable or 100% electric fleet, but what does one car look like? That's one plug in one facility that you assign to an operator in the city who drives less than 250 miles a day. I guarantee you have one car in your fleet that can do this. The same thing goes for businesses. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to see what things work. Also, be okay with the uncomfortable. There often isn't a prescribed answer for absolutely everything. The solar agreement, the power purchase agreement that we entered into was very, very complicated with a ton of different contracts labored on top of it. And if you were to tell me 3 years ago that I knew how I was going to meet the mayor's ambitious goal, I would have told you, you're going to sign a bunch of contracts and we're going to figure it out. But I couldn't lay out the exact map forward. So being comfortable with the realization that you are going to need to build the airplane while you're flying it on some of this is okay. And so laying those expectations out early, talking to your key partners and your key stakeholders and get them to understand that you may not have all of the answers right now, but you'll get there, and to be patient with you and to take that journey with you is a very important part of this process.
Great, yeah. Building the airplane while you're flying it is a very scary thing, but I totally get what you're going with there. And finally,
as
Kathy,
long as the engine's on before you hit the ground, you're fine.
Right, exactly. And then Kathy, same question to you. How would you encourage others to start their sustainability journey?
Well, I agree with both Joe and Michael on some of the steps they suggested, but there's already things that are going on in your community. So highlight and expand on those things, because you want to start with some success stories, because everybody wants to be on a winning team, right? So have some of those successes, and from the very beginning, start to set what your metrics are going to look like. Again, so you can highlight what those successes are. And then if you want to transition towards a more circular economy, again, look at what's already going on in your communities. You already have your residents that are reusing and refilling and reducing products. So highlight those things. Don't start with the recycling. That's what you do after you reduce and reuse. And also look to other cities as models. Look to Ellen MacArthur Foundation and to other cities. Not that you're going to duplicate what they're doing, but you can learn from those as models. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you all panelists. Thank you for answering all those questions. We're going to get to some audience questions here in a minute. But first, we're going to do one last poll question for our audience. And our second question is, what encourages you to be involved in sustainability at a regional level? We just heard from our panelists, but we want to hear from you guys. So let us know what encourages you to be involved. Select one or more, all that apply. We've got playing a part in making a difference, creating partnerships, improving economic situations, positive social impacts, environmental improvements. And if it's something else, we can only put 5 in here. The system wouldn't let us do more than 5. If you have another thing that encourages you, please feel free to put that in the question, chat that into the questions, so we can get your feedback on that as well. Again, just click on the slide here. You should be able to click on the slide to vote. Just select your answers there. We'll take a few more seconds because we've still got lots of responses coming. I really appreciate you guys' participation. Okay, great. Looks like we got a nice broad mix here of different things. So I appreciate you guys all responding again and participating with us. And now we are we've had quite a few questions being chatted in during the presentations. Obviously, you guys have touched on some really interesting topics. So we've got some questions for the audience. I've got some specifically for each presenter, and then I've got some that I can ask to a few of you. And again, feel free. You can still submit questions through our question pane. We do still have about 10 minutes left or so for questions, so it's not too late if there's anything that you want to get asked. Submit it in there. If we get time to answer or to bring it up live, we will. If not, we'll make sure that the panelists get those questions so that they can follow up with you after the presentation. So first question for Michael. This is a good one. I like this question. How do you propose to offset natural gas-based heating to get carbon free over the upcoming years?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say that poll didn't include save money. When you talk about sustainability, often there's a fiscal aspect there, and if done right, you're going to get it to pay for itself. So natural gas. Natural gas is a big issue, specifically when we talk about carbon reductions. The city of Cincinnati was the first large city in the country to offer a entire carbon-free option to our residents in our aggregation program. So in our aggregation program, we purchase renewable energy credits for electricity, and we also purchase carbon offsets generated at methane landfills, methane emitted from landfills. We purchase those credits as well to offset the natural gas emissions of our residents that choose to opt in. That being said, that's a relatively small scale. I do think that the renewable energy credits on methane and renewable natural gas is something that's going to continue to grow. The city of Cincinnati is part of the Renewable Thermal Collaborative, which is specifically looking at how to engage renewable options and replacement technologies around natural gas. But again, as I stated in my slide, the technology isn't 100% there yet. And so there is a lot of advancements that will need to take place. I will say another important thing around the issue of natural gas is that, we're seeing a lot of policy solutions around new construction and the limits of natural gas in those new constructions to encourage building electrification. We here in the state of Ohio, local municipalities have been preempted through state action. So we do not have the ability to mandate electrification in new construction. I just wanted to highlight that because some of these decisions are made at a state level, and it takes state level policy in order to drive technological advancement or building electrification in some cases.
Great. Thank you, Michael. We had a question for Kathy. It was something that you had gone over while you were giving your presentation. Somebody asked if you could share the circular economy examples again.
Sure. So the slide that I put up gave some of those examples. They are reuse and redistribution, no-till farming, composting, recycling after you reduce and reuse, also repair, refurbish, remanufacture, share. I mean, all of those are examples of the circular economy.
Great, thanks, Kathy. I got a question here for Joe. What is the #1 recommendation you would give a city that wanted to reduce their carbon emissions over the next 10 years?
Well, I think this is an important question because oftentimes we're feeling the urgency of needing to do this right now and feeling like we need to reduce our emissions every year to meet a goal by 2030 or 2050 or whatever your pathway is. And I think one key tool that is at the disposal of municipalities, no matter the size, is community choice aggregation. If you look at how this has played out over the past 20 years, when energy reform happened in Ohio, you saw a number of cities go to the ballot and get the authority to aggregate. And if folks don't understand the concept around aggregation, the basics are you create a purchasing group with all of your local residents, and through that purchasing group, as a community, you get to decide who supplies your energy. And with that, you also get to put parameters on what that input looks like. So what types of energy are you getting? Where is it produced? Where is it generated? There's all kinds of things that you can do in structuring your aggregation program to ensure it's meeting your goals. And so what we've seen over the past several years is a transition from community choice aggregation simply as a way to get a good price in the market to now also meet other goals like sustainability goals. So since the city of Cincinnati and the city of Cleveland have certainly used this tool to meet those goals, and we're seeing more and more. Columbus passed aggregation on the ballot last November. Grove City also passed at that same time, and they're using their aggregation program to procure 100% renewable energy, and they're also putting in requirements to have that energy generated here in Ohio. And so I would recommend for cities that want to do this to think about their energy aggregation program. What are ways that they could do it? If they have not passed that ballot initiative yet, we can help you make that happen. We can identify and provide recommendations on what that ballot language needs to be, what's the ordinance you need to pass in order to get it there and get it in front of voters and help support passage along the way. So reach out if that's of interest to do. And from there, I think the basics are, it doesn't matter the size of your city. You can put requirements out there to say, I want 100% renewable energy for my community choice aggregation program. In the near term, you can see major benefits and emission reductions on a very short timeline as you roll out that program. So that's the basic recommendation I would have is think about community choice aggregation. Whether you have a contract now or you don't have that authority yet, there's definitely opportunities out there.
Great. Thanks, Joe. And we had another question. This is geared toward both Michael and Kathy. So Michael, I'll let you go first. Are there expectations around local businesses to promote sustainability in your city?
So we always want our community to be as sustainable as possible. And in the development of the Green Cincinnati Plan, we've engaged our corporate community and had essentially a steering committee led by a lot of our large corporate players here in the Cincinnati area to help engage the community and to help them provide input to the Green Cincinnati Plan. So we've engaged them in that way. And one of the key recommendations of the Green Cincinnati Plan was the development of what we call a sustainability district, a 2030 sustainability district. And I believe Cleveland has one as well. And what the district's goal is to engage large commercial building owners to reduce their waste, their transportation, and their energy by 50% by 2030. So we here in the city of Cincinnati have successfully launched that district. And we've grown the district to engage most of our large community players, our large commercial players, our large building owners, and our large institutions such as Xavier and the University of Cincinnati and the City of Cincinnati as well. And we've all pledged to work together to reduce our emissions. And so that required to reduce the three topics that were laid out before. And so that's one of the key convening points that the City of Cincinnati is using to do that. And so annually, we report all of our data through Portfolio Manager to the 2030 district. So that we are held accountable and we can actively measure and then choose to manage our own resources. None of this is mandatory. This is all voluntary. But we've achieved rather significant success. And in addition to just the individual actions that are taking place, the 2030 district is also offering a number of educational opportunities, grant opportunities, energy audit opportunities to actively engage these members to achieve these reduction results.
Great. And Kathy, you want to weigh in from the Cleveland perspective? Are there expectations around local businesses to promote sustainability?
Yes, and similar to the City of Cincinnati, we do have a Cleveland 2030 district. Also, we have a climate action plan that was last updated in 2018. And to develop that plan, we invited 90 partners, including businesses, to help us draft that plan. And then for Circular Cleveland, I mentioned our stakeholder meetings, of which we're going to have 6, and to develop the roadmap to transition Cleveland to the circular economy, we are definitely bringing in businesses to weigh in on which focus areas we should be highlighting initially to transition us.
And April, if I could just jump in here as well.
Yeah, hate to leave you out there, Joe. Sorry. Yeah.
No. I think I'll take a different spin on this question, which is thinking less about current businesses in the community, about how you recruit new businesses to your community. And I think just some basic statistics around this. If you look at the 39 companies that are either headquartered in Ohio or are among the 100 largest employers in Ohio, they all have carbon reduction goals. They want to reach 100% clean energy by a certain date. And so when you think about what this looks like, there's often this misconception that environmental regulation, that environmental improvements, that a transition towards a clean energy economy is somehow counter to what businesses want to do. It's in fact the opposite. What we're seeing is that more and more companies, major Fortune 500 companies, look down the list. Many of them have major sustainability plans and goals laid out. They're looking for communities to invest in where they can count on a friendly environment for renewable energy. And if you look at the state of Ohio, I think many folks from the outside looking in would say the state is not that. And I think we've got a lot of work to do to make sure that companies that want to invest in Ohio, that want to invest in your communities and invest in Ohio workers, feel like this is a place for them to come and be able to meet the goals that they've laid out in their sustainability plans and their climate action plans and those types of things. So that's the other thing that I would add to this conversation, is that this is an incredible opportunity for local communities to be able to advertise to employers, advertise to businesses to invest here, because we want to see this happen in our community, and we are a community that's looking to be powered by clean energy and have sustainability goals that we can meet together.
Great. Thanks, Joe. And I just want to say a huge thank you. We're about out of time. If we didn't get to your questions that you had chatted in, we will make sure to follow up with you after the session. With that, I just want to extend a huge thank you to Michael, Kathy, and Joe, their insights and their unique perspectives. And I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. Once you leave, you will receive a survey. We value your feedback. We'd greatly appreciate it if you let us know how we're doing, and let us know if there's anything we can do to further assist you. Certificate of attendance will also be emailed to you after the session ends. Next, there we go. Here's a list of the upcoming sessions for the rest of the Sustainability Conference. We are just getting started. This was the first panel discussion for the day. We have another one coming up this afternoon at 2. And then for the next 2 days. So we still have a whole lot of information. I know our panelists touched on a couple of things that will be covered in other panelists. I know Kathy mentioned metrics. We have one specifically on tools to track, measure, and quantify. So looking forward to hearing about that and all of the other presentations for the conference. Again, if you have not registered, there's a link in the eBinder, which is one of the handouts of today's session. There's a link in there to register for each specific session. You do need to register individually for those. So with that, we are going to end the presentation. We hope to see everyone this afternoon. Thank you again for joining us and have a great day.